When I was young, playing cards helped me make friends and get to know the players I watched on TV. My sports love came of age in a time before the internet and with limited television options. A player's card was like his own personal Wikipedia. What did he look like under that helmet? How many home runs did he hit last year? What was his nickname? They were everywhere you looked, at the corner store, the gas station, at the hobby shop. Card companies saw the opportunity and began printing millions upon millions of cards, and before long, the crash was already happening and droves of collectors, including myself, began to leave the hobby.
The junk wax era was my era. It's when cards are now considered to be mostly junk because they were mass-produced, and there aren't very many valuable cards from that era.
And while the hobby contracted after the crash, it began to evolve and grow again over the following decades. Card companies like Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini realized they had to change.
In the 90s was a lot, like big time mass production, and there wasn't enough variation. So it's like, you know, obviously there's great Hall of Fame players in all the sports from those years, and some people when they come in, I got all these 90s cards, and they don't understand why they're not worth anything. They're like, it's Ken Griffey Jr. and whatever. It's like, it's not about the player, it's the supply and the demand. So I think they've figured it out. I think early 2000s they kind of figured it out, and they started doing the inserts and the autographs and the patches, and a one-of-one card autograph, LeBron James, like any of that kind of stuff is always going to have a value to it.
Fast forward to the COVID-19 pandemic. People who were now stuck at home with nothing to do started to flock back into collecting cards, only to find the hobby had evolved into a major business.
What can you offer us right now?
$1 million, cash up front, right now.
You either got to say yes or no.
My God.
I expect it to break the record for the most valuable sports item ever sold.
18 months or so ago, the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card sold for $12.6 million, which is the highest card ever. And then just a couple months ago, the Babe Ruth sold for $7.3 million, I think. The Babe Ruth card being over a century old. I think anytime you can have a card go into mainstream news like both of those did, everywhere you went, you could see a story about these cards. I think that's good because it's people like me are saying, oh wow, I have a lot of cards in my basement or in my attic. I'm going to go dig them out and see what I have too. And then that brings people back into the hobby. It also gets people who maybe never collected before going out and saying, oh, I want to see what kind of cards I can get.
Platforms like YouTube have transformed communication amongst hobbyists.
I got back in 2020 and I went onto YouTube to find out more about cards. You know, we were in the middle of the pandemic and I was bored and I was like, I could start my own channel and I'll do this for a couple months and see how it goes. And it's been way more fun and successful than I ever could have imagined. You build friendships through your channel.
Anyone could now start sharing what they were opening, what they were collecting, and their own opinions.
If you have not tuned into my channel, I love prospects and rookie hunting, so this is a great mix of both, short-term and long-term.
As cards became more and more expensive, the opportunity to break open boxes of cards, a form of gambling that allows people to buy into a box of random player cards with the hopes of getting a massive hit.
For Noah Nelson, look at this, Lou Gehrig! Out of 10, we just pulled a Lou Gehrig game-used jersey in our $19 discount round right here. You've got to be kidding me, what a fantastic card this is!
Breaks didn't exist until probably 15 years ago. You are paying money for a certain team or a certain player, and you will get the cards that are pulled from those teams or players. But if there are no cards, let's say you join in on the Red Sox, and they open a box and there's no Red Sox cards, you may get nothing for what you paid for it. So there's kind of a gambling aspect to it for sure.
The condition of cards also took on more prominence, and grading companies began to start playing a larger role as collectors were prioritizing condition when buying and selling.
Yours isn't graded, so it's only this, or it's a 7. It's worth less than the raw price. So it's changed it a lot, and I see it even in with their buying habits now. A lot of guys, that's just what they want. They only want to buy the slabs, like the PSA 9s, the PSA 10s. The older cards, it's a lot harder to get those high 9s and 10s.
In 2022, e-commerce company Fanatics, which made its mark in apparel, made a huge splash in the industry when it acquired Topps for a reported $500 million.
We're excited about the whole thing, like when you're obviously following it pretty close once it sort of broke, and they won all those major licenses, and him making such a big bet on the industry kind of was like our tell that, you know, the top's not in, like it's not a bubble or whatever. We just think, honestly, it's the beginning.
Come on down to Brady Auto and catch some major league savings.
Fanatics began to put their own stamp on the hobby. With innovative marketing ideas, they decided to create a Tom Brady baseball card as if he had been drafted by the Montreal Expos in 1995 and chose baseball over football. Collectors went wild for the hunt, with massive bounties in if they found certain exclusive Brady cards. As we enter 2024, the hobby has one thing going for it that doesn't always come around: generational talents. The Chicago Blackhawks phenom Connor Bedard has collectors salivating for his arrival.
Like, we've had guys calling for those young guns, for his young gun that comes out in February, I don't know, for the last year. And then the last few months, everybody and their mother's been calling, when's this coming out, when's this coming out? Like, I've never seen this kind of hype over one player. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun year. Between the Bedard and the Wemby, we have a feeling it's going to be a good year for us and a good year for collectors and everything else.
The sports card industry has ridden a major wave since COVID, and it continues to this day. We've recently seen the release of Bowman Draft, which includes the Tom Brady chase. This has been huge for the industry with commercials, all sorts of advertising, and in 2024, it promises to be even bigger. The Connor Bedard hype with the Young Guns chase and the Victor Wembanyama chase in the NBA. It's going to be a huge year for the sports card industry. Steve Autio, Global News.